We are all visitors to this time, this place. We are just passing through. Our purpose here is to observe, to learn, to grow, to love, and then we return home.
When it comes to conservation success stories, one of the ones that comes to mind almost immediately is that of the California condor. This is the largest bird in North America, and in the 1980s there were only around 22 individuals left. In 1987, the last California condor was captured from the wild in the attempt to breed these animals in zoos and hopefully reintroduce them into the wild. The first two individuals were released in 1992. They have since been released into 5 different locations in the western U.S., and the wild population is now at 347 and growing. This is just one example of a successful wildlife reintroduction program. There have been multiple successful cases over the years. There is the successful introduction of the Arabian oryx. There's the Przewalski's horse, or the Taki, the famous case of gray wolves into Yellowstone and the impact that they had on the environment out there. And even in my home state of Ohio, there has been the successful reintroduction of river otters. But what all goes into wildlife reintroduction? How are zoos and aquariums crucial to their success? Is it even a good method for conserving wildlife, or is there something else that we should be focusing on? In this video series, I aim to take a deeper dive into wildlife reintroduction and when it should be utilized. With wildlife reintroduction being considered a last resort by most conservationists, that raises the question of what comes first. Wildlife cannot be reintroduced into an ecosystem if there are the proper resources there for that species to thrive. With one of the greatest threats to wildlife being habitat destruction, the preservation and restoration of these natural spaces is a crucial step to saving the species that live there. The goal of habitat restoration is to return a site to its pre-disturbance natural conditions through physical manipulation of habitat to recover lost ecosystem services, structure, and function. This is a shift away from taking a species-based approach, looking at the ecosystem function and the trophic structure to depict the success of a restoration project. The restoration of an ecosystem provides suitable habitat for the return of predators and their prey. Using a top-down fashion, the return of these species can facilitate increased biodiversity and the recovery of vegetation. And while in many cases the restoration of a habitat can allow species to start to thrive again, this is not always the case. In the case of wolves in Yellowstone National Park, they actually had a profound impact on restoring the health of the ecosystem. The reintroduction of them actually restored the balance of predator-prey relations, causing a positive ripple effect throughout the food web. The wolves, as a keystone species, helped to manage prey species as well as managing other predators, and this allowed the ecosystem to rebound from damage. This is one of the pros and benefits of doing wildlife reintroduction. Another one is that it can help save threatened species from extinction, in the case of the California condor. In addition, wildlife reintroduction can help to increase the biodiversity. There are also some cons to consider when we are looking at wildlife reintroduction. There are animal welfare considerations, such as if they die in transport or if they're having trouble acclimating to a new environment. Even though it is the same ecosystem, it is still a new environment. There is economic considerations, so it can be incredibly financially draining, and some people argue that the money could be better spent elsewhere. Another con is that there can sometimes be a bit of a single species focus versus an ecosystem focus in the case of an animal like the vaquita. And then there's also the human-wildlife conflict that can come up. There are many strategies to restoring habitat. There's invasive species removal, which can eliminate them from being in competition with native flora and fauna. Habitats can be repaired using enrichment planting, where seedlings of native species are planted inside of these restoration areas. And there's also habitat corridors, which are basically connections between larger habitats that wildlife can move between them. And this helps link fragmented habitat areas. So how can we restore habitat and continue helping these endangered species? Conservation projects need to take a whole systems-based approach and look at the issues using a top-down solution. So the ecosystem needs to be looked at as a whole, including the flora and fauna, how they all interact, and how the local community uses the areas. Wildlife reintroduction comes in when it comes to any keystone species, any species that has a direct effect on an ecosystem that can be used to restore habitat. In the next video, I plan to dive deeper into some of the successful reintroduction projects, why they were successful, and how we can start to mitigate that human-wildlife conflict.